What is up today? I'm going to show you the one thing, the one strategy that is going to scale your business by over 5x in 2026. Now, using this strategy, depending on your setup, it could be more than 5x. It could be less than 5x. I don't know you. I don't know your business. So this is not an income claim. This is not a promise. So I have no clue if you're actually going to scale your roofing business by 5x, but I'm just sharing something that I've done that my clients who are roofing companies frequently do. And these are just commonalities in some of the 8 and 9 figure companies that I speak to on a weekly basis. So I'm going to be sharing this one strategy in depth. It is very simple. And once you apply this to your life, you apply this to your business, it is going to change your entire company and hopefully scale your business by over 5x in 2026. A lot of you have this misconception. Let's say you're doing, maybe you're doing 3 million per year, but let's just say 1 million per year. You're doing 1 million per year currently with your roofing business, right? And you want to get to, let's say, 10 million per year or, more, right? You have this misconception that the guys doing 10 million per year are doing something different, right? So you think maybe they have different marketing, they have different sales process, they have a just entirely different company structure and setup. Now in some cases, this might be true, but in a lot of cases, and something I've noticed with my own business, and this is just a general rule or law in business in general, but it can be applied to roofing as well. And I see this pop up time and time again, is you think these guys are doing something different, right? Because they're, 10x, or whoops, let me draw it here, 10x. So you think that they're doing something different, but you also think they're doing something 10 times different, right? Because they're 10x bigger than you. Since they're so much bigger than you, they might be doing that much more than you, right? Which this is frequently not the case, okay? Yeah, they are probably doing a few things different from you, but it's not this massive gap that you might think, right? And you might think that they're 10x better than you, which is another misconception. They're not 10 times better than you in terms of your skills, like your sales capabilities or your marketing capabilities, right? They're not 10 times better than you either, right? There's just this one thing that they're applying that you aren't, which is the reason why they're so much bigger than you, okay? Now, when it comes to marketing, when it comes to sales, when it comes to operations, when it comes to these fundamental things that are important in business, it's not that complex and it's not that special. And as business owners, myself included, so you tend to think these things, these fundamentals of business are super complicated, super complex, and you just tend to overthink the whole process of things, right? And that happens frequently when you're in a beginner stage of business, like doing 1 million per year, because you don't know that much, right? When you're in these beginner stages of business, like doing 1 million per year, you tend to overcomplicate, you tend to, complexify things because you haven't been in the game that long, right? So you think there's so much more to learn, there's so much more to it, and there is, but it's not in the marketing, sales, and operations where the learning is. It's actually in more things that have to do with you and your mindset and your fundamental and core beliefs about business, about life, about everything, right? So I'm going to kind of break down this one thing that these 10 mil guys are doing that you aren't doing. This is the difference maker, right? And it's a very simple concept. And you're going to be like, oh, obviously, right? But you need to apply it. I'm going to show you how, okay? So that one thing is the guys doing 10 million per year, they are just doing more, right? And because they're doing more, they're doing it better as well, right? So if you have a guy, let's use paid ads, for example. I don't know if all of you run paid ads, but this could be applied to anything, okay? So let's say, you at 1 million per year, you're doing, you're making 5 to 10 creatives per month, right? And the guy doing 10 million per year, he is producing, 50 per month, right? So what does this say, right? Not only is he going to be able to spend more than you because he's making more creatives, but because he's making more creatives, he's going to get better than you, right? And it comes down to very minuscule things. Now, like I said, it's not this complex thing where, they're changing their entire creative structure, creative process, advertising process. They're doing something entirely different. No, it's just the little things, these little incremental 5, 1, 2% tweaks and adjustments to the creatives that make them that much better than you. And those things, they add up, especially when you're making 50 creatives, or you're making 10x more creatives than you, right? So scaling your business, it comes down to a very simple idea, which is just doing more of what you're already doing. Okay. And now I'm going to get deeper into this, and you could do more. And a lot of people have this concept of doing more means, working hard, right? So working hard is good, okay? I'm not going to sit here and say it's bad or that, it's not helpful, but a lot of people overvalue hard work, okay? Hard work is not what's going to get you very far. Oftentimes, the months where I'm working the least hard are the months where I see the most growth. And that might sound a little crazy and a little weird, but I'm going to show you exactly why, okay? The people that work hard, they have, full calendars, right? Which you might be like, yay, full calendars, that's great, okay? But the issue with full calendars is your mind is fully occupied, right? Okay, so when your mind's fully occupied with the day-to-day tasks. Oh, my sales rep Joe said this. What are we going to do? Blah, 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 blah. All this little stuff, this little job. Sharon, she wasn't happy with how the roof went on. I have to deal with this, blah, 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 blah. And obviously it's business. Those things are unavoidable for the most part. You're always going to have little things like that you're going to deal with, even at the very highest level where you have, certain guys taking care of those little fires with like homeowners and things like that. But you're still going to deal with little fires here and there. Okay. But the reason why this is so bad, especially as a business owner, is when your mind's fully occupied, you don't think on how to improve as much, right? When your mind is empty and you're still fully focused on this business, right? You're fully focused on your business, but you don't have a fully occupied brain constantly and a fully occupied schedule. What's going to happen? In your free time where you're literally not working, you are going to get ideas, right? And that's a great thing. You're going to get ideas. You're going to have time to just do more of what you're already doing instead of just being caught up in this day to day. And when you're caught up in this day to day, and I see this happen with myself and with my partners at my business and with other business owners, is when you're caught up in this day to day, you aren't thinking of how to do more of what works. You don't even know necessarily what are the biggest levers I could pull. You're just caught up in getting through the workday, right? Which is a employee mindset. That's not going to help you. That's not going to help your employees, and that's not going to help your business. It's not going to help yourself, right? Because you're not thinking on how to improve your business. You're just thinking about the day to day. And at this point, you're just a glorified employee. You're not a business owner, okay? So I'm going to show you, this is down to the most important thing, right? So they're doing more than you, right? And that's simple. But the most important thing with business, especially in 2025, is the F word, okay? Focus, okay? Focus is the most important thing. Nowadays, it's always been this way, by the way, but nowadays it is the easiest time in human history to get distracted. Your brain's occupied with your family, which has always been a thing, occupied now with social media, what this person did, what this person posted, scrolling, all this stuff. And it might be more, common in my generation than it is in some of your generations, but it's still a thing. You guys are still looking at Facebook, right? You guys are still looking at maybe YouTube or maybe Instagram, right? Maybe you're not looking at TikTok, but you're looking at these platforms, okay? And that is very distracting. Not only that, and this is the part that is the most important with focus, is what I call SOS, okay? And that is shiny object syndrome. Okay. And now I know it sounds like some sort of disease, but it's not a disease. But you should treat it like a disease. Okay. Because you and your business and your brain being occupied with all these things, all these shiny objects, right? Not only outside of your business, like let's say you run a roofing company, you're like, maybe I should do solar or HVAC or this or that. You're occupied with all these shiny objects where, you want to start another business that's entirely separate from roofing, right? That is horrible. You do not want to do that, because what is that going to do? It's going to fill your calendar. It's going to occupy your mind and your mental bandwidth. But it's also that's just a losing formula. And I'm going to explain why shortly. But also simultaneously, another thing within your own business, right? Your roofing company is, getting distracted within it. So an example of this is marketing, right? So let's say currently you are doing, paid ads, right? And then you see all these guys in your industry talking about how great door knocking is, how great this is, how great that is, even paid ads, like how great is TikTok and this platform, right? They're talking about all these other different things, right? And you having shiny object syndrome, which you might think you don't because you only have one business, but you probably do. You're like, oh, that little shiny object looks great. I'm going to do that too. And I'm going to do that too. And I'm going to do that too. And then what does this do again? What does this relate back to again? Now, instead of doing more and better of what already works, you are just doing more different things, right? Which fills your calendar, occupies your time, and ultimately, you are just going to be mediocre at everything instead of very good at one thing. And I'm going to explain why that's horrible. You're just essentially just going to be jack of all trades, master of none. Okay. Which in business is not good. That is not a good thing. Okay. And I'm going to explain why here, right? So the reason why being a jack of all trades is bad in business. You might think, oh, I'm not putting all my eggs in one basket. I'm diversified, all this stuff. That's a horrible mindset. Okay. Because if you're doing something like Facebook ads, do you think there's just going to be some random reason why one of the biggest companies in the world that has, I think, 52,000 data points on every single user is just going to randomly blow up? The likelihood of that happening is way, way, way less likely than you focusing on all these different things and then ending up just sucking at everything and not having a working acquisition system, and then your business is going to go bankrupt, okay? That is exponentially more likely than Facebook just imploding on itself randomly. Or just something like door knocking. You think door knocking just one day is just going to randomly stop working? It's probably going to work forever because people need to live in homes. People usually answer the door. Yes, social media, people like doing stuff on social media better, and I think social media is a better platform to be doing things on, but it's not just going to randomly implode and stop working out of the blue. Again, the likelihood of that happening is much less likely than the likelihood of you going bankrupt because you're not good at anything, okay? So it's very important to understand here. Now, the reason why being a jack of all trades sucks is because everybody has, 24 hours in a day. Right? Simple concept. I know it's crazy. Everybody has 24 hours in a day, right? So there's two guys. I'm going to call one guy the Chad advertiser, right? He's a Chad advertiser. I think I spelled that completely wrong, but who cares? There's a Chad advertiser, and then, there's just some regular dude. We'll call him Joe. Okay. The Joe. Okay. The Chad advertiser spends his 24 hours on the singular thing that he does, which is Facebook, right? And then Joe, he's spending his 24 hours on, knocking. He's got knocking going. He's got Facebook ads. He's got Google. He's got, cold calling. He's got, we'll just stop it there, right? So he spends his 24 hours. Here, let me adjust this. He spends his 24 hours on 4 things, while Chad advertiser spends his 24 hours on one thing, okay? Very simple concept here, right? If you divide 24 by 4, which we're not accounting for sleep, meals, etc., I just want to do it for simple math, then this guy's spending 6 hours on each, right? I'm not going to draw it on all of them. This guy's spending 6 hours each, right? And this guy, he's spending 24 on one, right? Who's going to be better? Who's going to be better? Who is going to be better at Facebook, right? Or just better at a singular thing, okay? The Chadvertiser, right? So the Chadvertiser wins in terms of his ability to advertise on Facebook or just on a singular platform. So like, let's say his 24 hours applied to Facebook puts him in the top, 0.1% marketers, right, on Facebook. And then this guy, let's say he's in the top, 10% of each. Or that's probably not likely still, but let's just say he goes to top like 10%, okay? This is the important part, because you might think, okay, well, like if he's just like good at each of them, that's good. He has diverse, marketing sources, all this stuff, right? But the thing about business is this very simple concept, right? Which I call winner, you probably heard it, takes all, okay? The winner takes all, okay? When you're a business doing sub 3 million per year, 5 million per year, 10 million per year, whatever number lower, right? You could look at the statistics. It is exponentially more likely that that business fails or goes bankrupt, right? Why is that? Because the winner takes all, okay? Now, you can micro apply this exact, philosophy to your entire business, okay? So what does winner takes all mean? Okay? Means the winner on Facebook is going to take all, right? So let's compare again. Let's go to, Chad and Joe right here. Let's draw the line down the middle, okay? So there's a pie, right? There's a pie right here. And Joe, being the winner, takes a large percentage of that pie. Let's say this is, or not Joe, sorry, Chad. Chad, he takes half that pie, okay? While Joe, he's looking at a bunch of little, pies here, and he's only taking a little sliver of each pie, right? And when you add up the numbers, Chad having a large percentage of a single pie is going to equal more than a little sliver of a bunch of other pies, okay? So winner takes all. Apply this concept to every part of your business. Have one sales process. Have one marketing channel. Have one of all these things. Now, I'm not saying you need to do this when you're doing 10 million a year or 20 million per year. Yeah, then you might, have the ability to diversify, and you might have the time and the bandwidth once you've got really, really, really good at one thing. Okay, but it's incredibly important that you apply the concept of focus and simplicity to your business to get very good. That is going to be how you beat everybody, right? A very focused singular business owner will beat a bunch of very unfocused, it will beat a bunch of distracted business owners, okay? It's very simple. It's very, very simple concept, and I promise you, this is going to be the biggest possible lesson you learn in your entire business. I've gone through shiny object syndrome within my own business. I've started other businesses, and it's always resulted in me making less money. Every single time. There hasn't been a single time where I bought into shiny object syndrome where I made more money. It's never happened. Literally never. Okay? And there's been months where I've literally worked a few hours per day where I made more money every single month because I was focused on the 1 to 3 things that are the biggest levers in my business that are going to make me more money, right? So there's something called the 80-20 rule, okay? Where 20% of your inputs result in 80% of your outputs. So what does that tell you? Focus on the 20% of your inputs, the 1 to 3 things versus the, other 80% of your inputs, right? Because if you spent the time that If you spent the 80% of the time that you're spending on the 80% of inputs and you applied it to the 20% of inputs, what is that going to do? It's going to make you more money. Okay. So the 80-20 rule is something that's like universal in life in general, right? You can apply this to almost anything. Okay. But the 20% of inputs, if you were to focus more on that, you're going to make more money because it results in your 80% of outputs. Guarantee, look at your numbers. If you have multiple marketing channels, I guarantee you maybe one or two of them, 20% of them results in majority of the money you make. And even more micro than that, 20% of your ads results in 80% of the money you make, okay? So you need to apply this concept, you need to simplify, and you need to stay focused on the things that actually make you money instead of trying things that you have no clue. You have no clue if these things are gonna make you more money or not, right? So focus on what does, and if you do that, you are guaranteed to at least 5x in 2026. So that's pretty much it. If this video is helpful, subscribe, stay tuned for future videos. If you want somebody to handle all your marketing, maybe you're not super marketing minded, maybe you're more sales minded or operational minded person. If you want somebody to handle your marketing, we take care of that. We book thousands of qualified appointments every single month. And we only work with certain types of roofing businesses. So click the top link in the description and book a call. You'll talk to my team and we'll just see if you're a good fit. We don't work with everybody because our product doesn't work for everybody, right? So we don't want to waste your time and money. We want to make sure this will be, a good partnership and a good deal. So if you're interested in that, click that top link. Otherwise, check out our other videos. We have videos on marketing, business, everything kind of roofing related outside of like shingles and stuff like that, because I'm a marketing guy. I have an online business. I know nothing about shingles and roofing. Check out those videos if you need help with like marketing, sales, things like that. Other than that, peace out.